Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. I'm your host, Nick Koziel, and joining to me is my terrific guest, Whitney Skeans. She's the Senior Program Manager in Electric Vehicles at National Grid. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Nick. Great to be with you.
Yeah, I know it's great to reconnect. It's great to get this episode started because I know we've had a couple false starts with scheduling and everything, and mostly all my fault. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad we're finally doing it because you've got a lot to share about electric vehicles and what you're doing. And why don't you just give us a little overview of your position at National Grid and how you kind of came to that and what you're doing.
Thanks. Yes, very exciting. I've been with National Grid since April of 2021, so just under 2 years, and every day has been an absolute sprint. I manage their electric vehicle charging incentive for our business customers. We are the electric service provider for a large share of upstate New York. So my region is Western New York, where I live and play. And this is a really exciting role because I am able to connect with community, with our business leaders that are looking to be a part of the clean transportation future and offer their visitors, their employees, their shoppers, and lots of other segments, EV charging. So we are excited. I've been out in the field quite a lot doing outreach and just doing a lot of education and translation of this opportunity and answering a lot of questions about EV driving experience, about charging, you name it, lots of opportunity to fill the gaps and bust the myths. There are many myths out there.
Yeah, I know. And it's a really hot button, topic across the United States, across the world. Everybody is talking about electric vehicles and then how are you going to charge them? How is the grid going to handle the charging? And so with all of those things circling around, there's bound to be some misinformation or, I hesitate to say fake news out there. So one question I can ask you, what is probably one of the most typical things that someone asks you about, electric vehicles, electric charging? That's a misconception.
People ask all the time about range, and range anxiety is the number one reason people are not buying into EV. Average range of most vehicles is around 300 miles now. There are less, there are more, depending on the brand and the model that you choose. But range anxiety is more about anxiety than about range. As we look to the future, most people drive 28 miles a day on average, if you look at that. So 28 miles, and you're talking, in large part, 300 miles of range. You would really have to try to run out of battery under that scenario. If you look at the numbers, this program that I'm able to be out promoting is a ratepayer funded program. So all of us as customers of utilities that are regulated in New York State are paying into this EV charging infrastructure incentive. And right now it's available primarily for business customers to put in EV charging. But eventually, and later this year, National Grid will have a residential incentive for our customers to enroll in subscriptions to basically save on the cost of electricity that will power those vehicles during off-peak hours. So most people in the future are going to have a level 2 charging station in their garage. That's an overnight speed, 6 to 8 hour window. Whenever you need to plug in, you plug in. I drive an EV and I only plug in about 4 sessions, maybe 5 sessions per month. And the cost of my electricity bill has gone up about $30. So I like to tell people it's $1 a day to charge. I'm rolling out of my garage with plenty of miles for wherever I'm needing to go. If I'm planning a road trip, I'm going to do a little extra than maybe most people. I'm going to look at my vehicle. I'm going to plug in exactly where I'm headed, and my vehicle is going to tell me along that path where there are fast chargers. And if I pull into one of those fast chargers, I'm going to pay somewhere between $12 and $18 to fully charge my battery, get back on the road in about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's really not that great of a mountain to climb. I just think people, they need to see it to believe it. They need to experience it. And, that is going to also help them feel comfortable when they can talk to people like me that's been there, done that, and any other drivers out there. The driver community is very active, and they tend to travel in packs. There's lots of meetup groups and driver clubs, and they get together. And so we're out there, amplifying the opportunity and really talking about how great it is to be an owner.
Well, that's awesome. And, I know that there is a lot of people that have those questions about so I sort of, if I go to work, I'm in a hybrid situation. So if I go to work, it's sort of double that average, but I only go, 2 or 3 times a week, depending on what I gotta do. So, that's the anxiety a little bit for me. The other anxiety, I think, is more on the, I have not really been in an electric vehicle. I've not tested out. I've not tried it. I don't know what ones are available, all those types of things, because, we have the chip shortage. We have all these other things going on. And I do know, because you've invited me to at least one of them, you guys have events around, EV vehicles and giving people the opportunity to kind of test them out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the best way to learn is have that tactile experience. And so National Grid has collaborated with the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus and also the Niagara Frontier Automotive Dealers Association, and many other organizations have come together, the Sierra Club of Western New York, to put on an event that we call Electrify Buffalo. We do that every fall. That's our biggest event. We bring about 300 to 400 people out to the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, where they have a lot of charging stations. And then we engage the driver club and the driver community. We invite them to come out so they can do show and tells. So there's every year, well, this is now, 2023 will be the 3rd year. We kicked this off kind of as a real baby idea that just swelled into a great event. September of 2021 was our first year. And then last year grew a little bit more, had more vendors. We bring in those drivers, as I said, usually about 25 to 30 drivers will pull in, all different makes and models. And then we have the NFADA with a lot of the dealers that are selling those electric vehicles, that are giving people test drives. And then every other kind of clean transportation modality is there. Last year, we had e-bikes, we had e-scooters. We also had someone who built an e-couch. It was basically a couch that was on a platform that was motorized by an electric battery. So we just had a great time out there, food trucks and what have you. So that's happening every September during National Drive Electric Week. So Buffalo is on the map for that. I know last year we were, I think, the 2nd or 3rd largest Drive Electric Week event in New York State. And this year we hope to be the largest. So if you're interested, curious, it's a great way to have that, personal engagement with a vehicle. And, sometimes inventory can be low on the dealer lots. It may be difficult to find one to test drive. But if you have a friend or a family member, definitely hit them up and then come out to our event as well. So in addition to those National Drive Electric Week events, I am out in the community, engaging with the chambers of commerce, talking with the business associations that are specific to different industries, whether they be, manufacturing, travel, tourism, logistics. Our region, lives and dies by visitors. And one of my key target segments this year for 2023 is the hotel community and any of those travel tourism venues, to really make sure that we have accommodations for people that are coming into Western New York by way of their electric vehicle. And there's nothing more aggravating as a driver, I'll take my National Grid hat off, but there's nothing more aggravating than to be traveling for play or for business and needing to find a hotel with charging and having a hard time doing that. And I will choose a hotel on that basis. So it's definitely a market that's coming around. We're also very busy installing EV charging for the automotive dealerships. As you can imagine, in order to get that inventory delivered to them, their manufacturer has certain requirements for charging during certain timeframes. So we're racing with them to make that possible and to also help shave off the cost of putting in the infrastructure. So if I may, Nick, I'd like to just talk a little bit, bit of business here too.
Sure, go
so
ahead.
As I said, this is the second largest EV program behind the state of California, New York State. And this program that I am implementing for National Grid is called the Make Ready program. And it's just that we're making the infrastructure ready to support the future of clean transportation and the clean climate goals of New York State as one of 6 regulated utilities, electric utilities. So National Grid, along with 5 other electric utilities, was ordered by the New York State Department of Public Service to make available this incentive, again, funded through ratepayer dollars. This order came out that authorized that funding in July of 2020. In sum, statewide, all 6 utilities, over $700 million for the explicit purpose of putting in 50,000 charging ports statewide. So National Grid's portion of that larger pot is 143 million for 16,000 ports. In addition to that infrastructure, we're also incentivizing fleet operators, whether they be light duty fleets, like your local municipal that has trucks, right? They're out in the street, they're collecting water bills, what have you, trucks, or even small 4-door sedans. Police vehicles that are converting to electric, and then all the way up to these medium heavy duty tractor truck trailers, that are out on the roads. So over the next 10 years, we will be hustling with our customer to enable that transition, to advise them with funding options that are stackable with National Grid's incentives for infrastructure. And then as we learn about their projects early on, and we always encourage our customers to talk to us early and often as they're in the planning stages, because as you said earlier, we need to make sure that our grid is able to accommodate the load that they anticipate putting on it in the future. And these projects, these large scale infrastructure projects, can oftentimes take 2 to 5 to 8 years. And we need to know about those projects now, so that we can sprint together with our customer to support their businesses and support their needs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information there that you're sharing and a lot to unpack. And, one of the things that I was also thinking is, like, with such a monumental task, how do you keep on top of it all?
I take my vitamins. No, I am very inspired by the overarching mission that is very, very community focused. And we know that transportation is the largest sector of greenhouse gas emissions in the Northeast. It accounts for 40% of carbon emissions. So if we can help to get dirty vehicles off the road, we can also impact the health and the outcomes long-term for our communities, for our children, and also particularly for neighborhoods in need, as we recognize transportation emissions often disproportionately impact those lower income communities. And yet the benefits of clean air would accrue to all of community. So my heart is really in the place of thinking about our most vulnerable customers. Prior to my role with National Grid, I came from Michigan, where I administered low-income payment assistance and energy efficiency programs for one of the largest gas and electric utilities in the state. And so from that place of really caring and really seeing impact happen at that community level is where I come from, and what gets me up every day.
Yeah, that's great. And that was another reason I definitely wanted to have you on the show, because I remember how big your heart was and is, and some of these things you had mentioned to me in the past of what you've done. And, I think it's important that we don't forget some of the people that might already have trouble with access to transportation. And I know that some of the things that New York State is doing and Buffalo is doing is looking into, green transportation for buses and trains and all forms of communication. And to circle back a little bit, we were talking about misconceptions. And one of the things that you said, it's like $1 a day for you to, charge your vehicle. And it's even less sometimes if you're like, in my case, we got solar panels put in. So we have green energy being, accrued every day, well, mostly every day, every sunny day. And in a way that's even charging us less, right, for charging our vehicle. But to kind of also talk to, like, one of the other misconceptions that at least I think it's a misconception, you can tell me if I'm on track or not, is there's a lot of talk about how we're just sort of replacing one evil with another, right? So electric vehicles are coming in, they're burning clean, but then we have to have the coal power plants and all that other stuff increase in order to handle the electricity that's needed to charge. So can you talk maybe a little bit about that, because I know that is a big thing that, like, I've had tons of people talk to me about.
Sure. It's a tough topic in our industry. We are aligned with our customers. We are thinking about their costs. Affordability is a huge question and is something that concerns us as we are all, paying our taxes, and we're thinking about these goals of New York State, and we're excited to support them. We also recognize that the cost of this clean energy transition will be immense. And currently, as you said, the load of generation, 40% of New York State's load comes from natural gas power plants, natural gas fired power plants. And as the New York State looks at electrifying everything from our buildings, to our stoves, and some of these mandates around vehicles, school buses, that's another mandate that maybe some of your listening audience is not aware of. By 2027, New York State school districts and school bus operators will no longer be able to purchase diesel powered buses. So there will only be electric vehicle busing that's sold. And by 2035, all busing must be electric. Similarly, with passenger vehicles by 2035, those passenger vehicles on New York State highways and byways are going to need to be all electric. So it's a big cost that we're looking at, and how do we make sure that that doesn't prevent economic development and growth and business opportunities and jobs. And there's a lot of discussion between the utilities and also New York State and our regulator to think through and be very wise about decisions and get a lot of community feedback. So they've been out in the community. We've been supporting hearings on what's called the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which was just approved by a group of experts. And so that is going to be sort of one of the guiding documents that will help to shape the future, and do that in a way that can be affordable and also balanced. So we can't do this overnight. We certainly, if everybody tomorrow decided, I'm going to buy an electric vehicle, everybody could afford an electric vehicle and put charging in their garage, we would not be able to manage that load. But this is a journey. It is something that we are taking on with every bit of enthusiasm, and obviously being sure that we can mitigate costs through this program that I'm implementing, and many other incentive programs in the energy efficiency space that, as we know, over time, those incentives will diminish. They are intended to animate the market. And so when I'm out in the community, I like to talk about the timeline. This funding, this $143 million that I mentioned earlier, at this point is set to expire by year end 2025. So that's less than 2 years away. And towards our goal, we're at about 3,000 ports. So we've got a long way to go. We're looking to work with any size business, large or small. And at this time, there are no specific siting criteria. So you could be a small dance studio in the middle of nowhere and decide to put one in, or you could be a very large, distribution logistics company that has, hundreds and hundreds of fleet that wants to put in charging to support deliveries. So there's the full scale of a variety, and it's exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, it sounds it.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it sounds really exciting. And I'm going to let you continue your thought, though, because I don't want you to get off it. So,
well, I just wanted to talk a little bit as well about the driver experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your car. Like, I know you have one. So, like, what do you got? What are you driving? And what's that experience like?
I love my Mustang Mach E. I've had it now for just over a year. I have a charger in my garage. The price of vehicles is it's something that not everybody can afford. So I would say, first of all, I'm very blessed to be able to have an electric vehicle and understand and sort of walk the talk so that I can share and have this personal experience and be able to talk to my customer about it.
Mhm.
But I will say the prices of EVs are coming down dramatically as well. The battery technology is improving, so you're getting longer ranges. The charging infrastructure, again, which is the reason people don't buy in. I can't see a charger. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of battery, et cetera. Those chargers are going in the ground by way of incentives like National Grids and others. And then I wanted to talk too about the total cost of ownership. So yes, the sticker price is what it is, but over the life of the vehicle, when you think about avoiding oil changes, you're avoiding any type of engine issues, you're avoiding a timing belt. I also love the feature on my Mustang, my EV, that I can turn on what's called one pedal driving. So with that, you basically drive, it's like a golf cart. When you pick your foot off the accelerator, the car just crawls to a nice balanced stop. And that eliminates the need to use your brakes because the car is slowing itself. And while it is slowing itself, it's also regenerating your battery. So that is was one feature. Initially, I was like, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I trust it. But I turned it on, and within a number of hours, I was in love with it. And it saves on the life of your brakes, so you may not have to replace your brakes as often. And also, I would like to share as well. It's so safe. These vehicles, in most cases, and my vehicle has the batteries line the base of the vehicle, so the balanced weight enables it to really hug the ground in all kinds of elements. So in our Western New York weather, I feel very safe in snow and rain, and I've never had an issue from that standpoint. I will also say, because of those safety features in the vehicle, the fact that it's not imbalanced, it's not going to spin. It has a lot, and most of these vehicles now are coming with cameras, so lots and lots of bells and whistles to keep you safe. My insurance cost was reduced 30%. I was shocked. I went from a Subaru Outback, again, very good car in the snow, highly rated, safe family car, and I was able to save 30% on my insurance. As I moved to I have a red Mustang, which they always say insurance costs are higher. A red sports car, 30% less the cost of insurance than my Outback. So again, these things are really surprising to me, and that may not be the case for everybody, but I think that it's definitely worth some investigation. The other thing that I'd mention is that the federal tax incentive on the purchase of all electric vehicles opened up to higher MSRP than what had been anticipated as of January 2023. So there are many more vehicles that will qualify now for that full $7,500 federal tax credit. So make sure you check out, if you're shopping the market, make sure that the vehicles that you're looking at would qualify, and then and talk to your tax professional in the year of purchase and make sure that you can take advantage of that. There's also a New York State rebate that's taken off at the dealership. So it's a point of sale rebate, and it comes right off the price. It ranges between $500 and $2,000, again, depending on certain eligibility criteria. So check that out.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then as well, when you put a charger in your garage, that's considered as well for a New York State and a federal tax incentive. So I will be claiming that this year. I put in a charger in my garage, and the actual station itself was $600. The install was $500. So the installation contractor had to run a 240 outlet from my box up through my crawl space into the garage. And from there, just plug in the charger and hang it on the wall. So $1,100 for that installation, all in. and I get to claim it for 30% of that price in a tax liability forgiveness. So there's a lot of ways that you can save, not
Yeah.
just the vehicle itself, but the purchase, the install, and everything in the charging to go along.
Yeah, you should be a car dealer too, because like you're selling me on a car right now. So I want to say also, being, you know, in some of the positions that I've been in higher ed, you know, sustainability being such a big thing, and science students talk to me about what they're working on. The other thing that I think people kind of forget, and it's not going to move as fast as some of the things you're talking about implementing, but the technology is changing as we're going forward. So, you know, solar panels on cars are not unheard of as another way to charge as it's going forward, making, you know, some of those meters not obsolete, but like, you know, less of a necessity on trips. When you park in a very shiny spot in the mall for your breast break or whatever on a long trip, you're charging your car. You know, things like that I know students have been talking about, you know, interchangeable batteries like they have on the little mopeds in some of the countries now. I know that's still something that's we're quite a ways away from, because it's all like built within the car, like you're saying, like your Mustang is all on the floor, so like you're not going to really change batteries out. But different types of charging stations and things are being developed. I wouldn't be surprised if that will ease off of the electrical you know, mainframe as well. So
Sure.
just
A
to
lot of
answer those haters a little bit more, because I know I've
yeah.
heard so many things about, well, we're never going to be able to sustain this on the grid. That's because it's not all going to be on the grid as we move forward.
Well, you think about the different forms of generation. You know, you have wind, you have solar, you have hydro, you have nuclear, you have natural gas generation. But then battery storage it's not a form of generation, but it is a form of grid reliability. And if you have these times of great production, you can store the energy in the batteries. And cars are just a small battery. And as you probably have seen, and you know, many of your audience has probably seen, the Ford Lightning is one of the first vehicles that has that ability to basically share energy with a
Yeah.
home. So it's a vehicle to grid relationship. And now your car could potentially power your house during an outage. And so this sort of interchange is going to accelerate you know, the production of that type of technology, because everybody's going to want that.
Sure.
It's like a mini generator in your garage. And then also it's going to enable National Grid to manage load. And you think about large scale fleets like school buses. This is a perfect use case. So a school bus in the summer is just sitting there, not in production. But this is a time when National Grid has peak challenges. People are running their air conditioners. So at that time, if there is opportunity to draw from those buses and support other needs of the grid, we would incentivize those school districts by paying them to borrow that battery. So it's a potential income stream for them. So I think, you know, we're in sort of this VCR stage of the clean energy transition. So we're, you know, it's a tough thing for some to imagine, but I do think, as you said, there's so much innovation happening every day. And thanks to, you know, the university community, academia, thanks to you know, a lot of developments of startups. You know, we see that here in Buffalo, and really exciting opportunities for the entire marketplace to benefit.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And there's a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening, you know, in Buffalo and New York State and everywhere in the future in result. And like, I'm blessed to kind of live in a spot where we have some good sun. I can use solar panels. I also have a stream. I also have great wind. So like I could do all three, you know. So bringing that energy in and saving maybe a little money or even making some money like you're suggesting. So I think that those are all great things to kind of look forward to in the future. And, you know, I got to get myself out to one of your events to better see some of the options. Maybe I'll just stop by for a quick spin in the Mustang if you'll have me. That's cool.
Absolutely.
So, but Okay, now's the kind of the part of the episode where that big stumper question comes in. Like, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to share? I want to give you the opportunity to kind of share everything. Um, and while you're thinking on that, we can do some kind of fun questions to learn more about Whitney. So maybe someone that has inspired you over the years, living or dead or a relative or whatever. Who do you find as an inspiration?
I am inspired by my late mother every day. She was someone who always showed up shiny. And I think that she saw a potential in things that would otherwise have been discarded, whether that was out, picking antiques or meeting people in a public space. Anywhere she went, she was radiant. And she was someone that felt instead of thought. She was always sort of intuiting what people needed. And I think that, that's the posture that I always want to take in the world. We never know what someone's going through. We never know when just a smile or a very simple compliment might save a life. And so that's something that I think about daily, and it inspires me to do good in the world. It inspires me to live with a calling and really to honor her memory and to honor the faith that she held so dearly and is so dear to me as well. So thank you for asking.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds just beautiful. And, those types of people are a bright spot in the world, right? They can just smile through everything and be that supportive nature. I'm sure you miss her so much. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that you're living on that legacy through, and honoring her memory in that way. That's amazing. Um, so another question really quickly, maybe when you were growing up, like what was your dream job, or what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So I guess I wanted to be an adventurer. And initially in my studies, I intended to pursue a career overseas, working with non-governmental organizations, coordinating humanitarian relief, and working on economic development in that international realm. And I sort of launched into a career in that space. I spent 3 years living in the Middle East and working with communities that were suffering the consequences of conflict. I was in Israel and in Jordan,
Mhm.
and I had quite an incredible experience. It was not easy, and came home sort of feeling a little disillusioned. Like, did I make any difference at all? I was not able to stay. I was in the process of studying Arabic, but I was not able to stay due to the war that was just about to start in Iraq, the
Mhm.
second Gulf War. And so I came home, and I had a little bit of time to think about what I would do next. And just so happened to find an opportunity. I had no idea when I read this listing. It was a utility program manager for the Salvation Army. I had
Mhm.
no idea what this meant. And I remember calling up and saying, okay, I know the Salvation Army does thrift stores. I guess you guys do some interesting work, but what is this all about? And so I ended up managing their heating assistance grant
Mhm.
portfolio, about $6 million a year, distributed through 58 core community centers statewide,
Mhm.
writing those grants, bringing in those dollars, and then making sure they were distributed to communities in need. And growing that funding. I'm proud to be a part of the team that grew that funding to $10 million a year in my 5 years there, by way of new relationships with utility companies saying, hey, look, here's the number of dollars that we're bringing onto your customer bill to ensure that they are safe and they don't suffer the consequences of disconnection.
Mhm.
And so they were, the utilities in Michigan were very generous and said, okay, well, we want to do more. Can we help you more? And I said, by all means. So we created programs with utilities, and we continued to develop those. And 5 years later, I had an opportunity to join the industry side. One of my
Mhm.
peers in the utility space was retiring, and she said, why don't you come over? So it's been a meandering journey, Nick,
Yeah.
but through it all, there's that common thread of just living according to mission. And every day just thinking about how I can impact not only funding, not only resourcing, but really relationships, building those and creating this sort of unification of the beauty of braiding relationships. So as I meet one person, get to know them, another, and I know you're a relationship guru too. You're always kind of thinking,
how can we connect?
Yeah. How can I bridge a divide? How can I find a need and pair it with somebody that can meet that need? So, you're kind of behind the scenes, but you're always thinking and feeling that motivation of the impact that you're creating.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for that. First of all, for acknowledging that. I think that's great and it's working, right? And also, I can't think of a space where you wouldn't have been making an impact. So when you say in the Middle East, you were kind of looking to you weren't sure if you did. I'm sure you did. When you think about I've been in higher ed and my wife's a teacher, and having those students like out of the blue sometimes come back and just say, hey, you were there for me when I needed it. You didn't know it, but this was happening. And if it weren't for you, I don't know where I'd be. Those are the moments that you probably had so much impact you just didn't know. And knowing you the way that I know you and all the things that you've done and you've talked about here, I can't imagine that you didn't make a significant impact over there. And I'm sure you did. And it sounds like a whole other podcast episode that we could have talking about some of these things that I did not know about you. So I think that is quite amazing. And you are an adventurer. You're just a different type of an adventurer. And you did some of the things along the way, like as you meander, right?
Right. So. Yeah, you gotta take some risks in life. If it seems like it's too hard for you, don't let that scare you. I had a friend tell me, if 60% of a new job, if you can do 60% of a new job, do it. 40% is going to scare the hell out of you. Go for it. Because you're going to grow, and you only grow, you only change, you only truly transform when you have those challenges in life. And back to my mom, just real quick, kind of drawing the circle here. I've told many people, and I feel this every day, that in some ways her early passing, though it was, the hardest thing I ever had to endure, it was also the greatest gift that God gave me, because she never put anything in the someday bucket. It was always, today is the day, and I'm going to live it with all of my zest, all of my courage. And so when she passed, she helped me see my life in reverse and say, okay, what is happening today? And how can I accelerate happiness in the future? And so that's really what prompted the move to Western New York. I had vacationed in this area in Niagara-on-the-Lake for many years and just loved it. Happy place, living a great life in Michigan, a great career, but also feeling like there's something more. I got to figure out what that is. And so came to Western New York, again, really with no roots here, no family, no friends, and have made it by way of so many dear people and this community. This is one of the very best gems in the nation. I love the Buffalo community. I live up in Lewiston, so I will grow that to a much larger region of Western New York. But the people here are great, and I've only ever felt so much love and so much encouragement. And really, like you said, the connection points. People, they would meet me and say, okay, what is it that you need? And then, follow through on that. Not just say, but actually deliver upon it.
Well, Michigan's loss is our gain for sure. I'm super, super excited that you came out this way, because you are doing some great work and terrific work in what you're doing here. So kind of circle back to that question too, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I think we covered a lot, and it's okay if there's nothing else, but I just want to give you that opportunity before we close out.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say that the projections, back to EVs and EV adoption, projections are that people in this country, 20% of people by 2030 are going to be driving EVs, 20% by 2030. I think that's actually very undercounted. I think that we're going to see many more. As we know, and data is proving out, the sales of EVs is doubling year on year. So from 2020 to 2021, it doubled. 2021 to 2022. Last year, it represented 4% of new car sales. So I think it's, this country, everybody's kind of like, well, what's the newest, shiniest toy? I want to
Sure.
try it out. So if you're curious, would love to talk shop, would love to help get you there by way of an event. Come on out. We have lots and lots of things going on throughout the year, and also, talk to drivers and investigate their experience as well. So thank you, Nick, for this time. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
And for your persistence, making it happen after a few times needing to reschedule. But, I appreciate you and everything that you're doing to support the community in your area, and also to help to connect great ideas with great people.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing all that you have shared with us. Our guests can connect with you. We'll have all of your, social media and contact information in the show notes. I urge you to do exactly what Whitney says. Research and take a look into, what's available to you and how it might best fit your lifestyle, right? Because I think there is an EV vehicle for everybody right now. You may have to wait a little bit to get it. The one I was looking at was sold out for the entire year, and they're like, well, we're not taking orders anymore. It's sold out so much. So I think that you might run into that a little bit, but be persistent, because if it, like you said, like the shiny new toy sometimes in America and the United States is something that everybody wants, and I think that this is something in the right direction for everyone. So thank you, Whitney, for being a terrific guest.
You're welcome. And if you want to check out where the charging stations are, this is another final little tidbit, if I can throw it in.
Yeah, of course.
Check out plugshare, one word, plugshare.com, or you can download the app and it will tell you can cruise in on addresses specifically or areas, and it tells you how many charging stations, what kinds of charging stations. You can zoom in on one particular location. It'll tell you what the price of those stations are. It'll also maybe include some user feedback. So users that are on there can say, okay, well, this one is such and such speed, or this one is such and such doesn't work, so you can kind of make sure that you have reliability when you show up. So check that out. And many of those stations, thankfully, are by way of National Grid customers that said, yes, I want to participate in your program and take some of those dollars off your hands. So if you are a business customer and you're interested in the opportunities, we will fund up to 100% of the cost of infrastructure to put the chargers in. So it's really generous. It may be a lot cheaper than what you might imagine. And there's no cost to investigate. There's no cost to talk to us. So I look forward to connecting, and thank you once again, Nick.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm your host, Nick Koziel. This was That Sounds Terrific. And joining me today was Whitney Skeans.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.